Alright, animation fanatics, grab your tickets and a hot snack, because it's time for Monkey at the Movies. Today's episode was requested by me, because we're reviewing Isle of Dogs. I love me some stop motion. Ever since seeing Wallace and Gromit's Moon Adventure as a kid, I was hooked. It got a little heavy at that one part where Wallace killed the Jedi, but it was still a good flick, so you know I was excited about this one. Isle of Dogs takes place in the land of the rising sun, where a ruthless dictator has determined that dogs are a threat to humanity due to a disease outbreak among canines. Thus, the government quarantines all the nation's dogs on an island made out of trash. That makes this dump an Isle of Dogs. Everyone seems fine with this turn of events, but as a poet once wrote, the kids are not alright. A young scientist tries to find a cure for the dog-based disease, a token white girl for Western audiences to cling to leads a vocal protest group at school, and a young Japanese boy puddle jumps his way to the island to find his own dog. The rest of the story is a race against time as the young rebels try to find a way to save the dogs before they're wiped out completely. The story itself actually doesn't sound that intense, but the way it's framed and twisted around really sucks you in. Betrayal, oppression, trust, individualism, and collectivism, a ton of huge concepts are all wrapped up nice and neat in this little bento box of a film. And I think bento box is the right metaphor to use here, since the story unfolds in separate compartments, by which I mean the film is cut into sections, each with its own title and establishing shot. The director, Wes Anderson's previous stop-motion blockbuster, Fantastic Mr. Fox, went about it the same way. But it's a lot more prevalent in this flick, with a new title popping up almost every 10 to 15 minutes. Honestly, it got kind of annoying at first, but after a while it seems quirky and acceptable, so whatever. That's the long and short of the plot, but what impressed me was how the story kept a strong poker face and held its cards close, to a point where I couldn't even tell who the main character was until about half an hour in. Now that the film industry is saturated with over a century's worth of movies, any experience that manages to surprise me like this is a welcome breath of fresh air. I ain't gonna spoil the rest though, so that's all you're getting for the plot. Holy crap, where to start with this one? Most of the artistic value in Isle of Dogs comes from its composition. I noticed that nearly every shot was reminiscent of Okumura-style urushi, which relies heavily on far shots of simplistic geometric environments with more organically shaped characters placed into them. Whether or not that is the intention, I'm not sure, but that's just the vibe I picked up. This heavy reliance on far shots I felt was kind of agitating in the medium of film though, since there was a ton of moments that could have used a close-up or two, and it ended up making me feel like I was missing out on the action. In fact, it seems like close-ups are only saved for moments when characters are having heart-to-heart talks, whereas fight scenes are always depicted from afar, using a goofy Looney Tunes cloud to hide all the violence. You could probably write it off as an attempt at a political message like, oh man, fighting pushes us away, but talking brings us closer together, to which I say, yeah, whatever. No shit, Shakespeare. Now show me some fight scenes! While the environments had this flat painting vibe, the characters were much more dynamic and fleshed out, expressing vibrant emotions through subtle facial movements, the most frequent of which being watery eyes, since this film had more tears than I did when I received that heartfelt fan letter from John Chris Belushi back in 2002. In fact, I think I've got that right here.
Dear Brian, I'm glad you enjoyed my work on Ren and Stimpy. I may not like pie, but you make my banana cream. Come to Cali and see me real soon. X's and O's, John K.
That didn't sound as heartfelt now that I read it as an adult. In fact, I think this may be part of a conversation I'll have to save for my therapist later. But back to Isle of Dogs being a good movie. An interesting choice that strikes me at the start of this film is how none of the Japanese characters spoke English or had subtitles, which in and of itself ended up being both hilarious and creative, in the way that the movie bridged the linguistic gaps with its non-Japanese audiences. In today's hypersensitive PC America, I'm not sure if a choice like that will be lauded or criticized, but I guess it was criticized. Well, alright, I mean, that's fair. I think it's okay for Asians to demand more cultural sensitivity from us. After all, it's not like the Japanese animation industry stereotypes us at all. Oh wait, it does. Well, I guess that's just the way the jelly donut crumbles, so go see this movie, alright? I'm Brad Boucher, this has been Monkey at the Movies. I remember it just so you can forget about me. See you at the next flick!